A world-shaking dilemma. Oh no! Danger! Danger! Our relationship is gonna crash on the rocks! I saw it happen with my own eyes. Yesterday, he was in the town square talking with Ellie. I only saw it from far away, but it sure looked like they were having a good time. I couldn't hear much either, but I'm pretty sure they'd said something like, together and secret. Well, Ellie is a super awesome person after all. I thought really hard about how to ask him what happened and tried not to cry. Today we're going on a date. I waited, and he came. He doesn't know that I saw him having so much fun with Ellie yesterday.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Let's go.
So, off we went. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. I don't remember where we went or what I ate. Oh, but there was honey. I do remember that. It was so yummy and what should I do? After a while, he said there was something he wanted to tell me. No! He's gonna say we should break up! I didn't want to hear that, so I stalled. Oh, guess what Venti did? And Volcanon was... Did you know Vishnu went and... Chlorica, she... Oh, Arthur, he... And Keel was all like... Forte was going around. And Meg was... Then Porco? Oh yeah, and at the clinic? This year I wanna go to the beach. I tried really, really hard, but I started running out of things to say. Oh, Ellie, she... When I said her name, suddenly no more words would come out. He said. I thought you were acting strange. So you knew? I nodded, trying to keep the tears inside. Then he just said, like it was nothing. It was no big deal to him. I was really serious about us, but he... And then he held out a little box. Here. Huh? Was our love boat not gonna sink after all? He looked away, cheeks all red like poppies, and said, It's a wedding ring. Huh? For who? Ellie? When I asked that, he looked super confused. What? Why would it be for Illuminata? He told me he wanted to marry me. So he asked Ellie for advice. And Ellie said he should get a ring and do it proper. Oh, so that's what it was. I'm so happy. Inside the box was a ring with a sparkly gem and butterflies etched on the sides. Thanks. I don't remember much of today. I know my heart felt heavy and hurty for a while, but now it's all light and fluttery. Next time, I think I want something that doesn't come in a box. I told him that while my heart soared higher and higher. I'll happily accept this ring. Ta-da! Dee-dee-dee, my honey. Yum, yum, yummy. You and me, my honey. The end.
Rune Factory 4.
Keeping secrets. I focused all my concentration on my fingers. Slowly, I opened the oven. Yes, it worked. After much ado, the cake had finally risen. Behind me, my kid jumped for joy. 2 hours left. I checked the time and got ready for the next step. See, today's my wife's birthday. I was planning to buy a cake for her. But then my kid looked at me and said, "Can't we bake one?" "Bake one? Starting now?" "Mama's going to be home by evening, you know." My kid looked up at me, tears in her eyes. Oh, stop that. I hate when she does that. We didn't have time and we didn't have ingredients. Well, not for anything fancy anyway. I looked at my kid again. That was a mistake. Just a glance was enough to make me feel guilty. Crap. Fine, but it's gotta be simple. That okay? My kid's face lit up and she hugged me hard. I love you, Papa, she said. Oh, jeez. Who could say no to that cute face? Cake baking it was. So, the two of us got started. I let my kid help with the batter. Do you think Mama will like it? She asked as she stirred. She will, I'm sure of it. Are you sure? She asked, looking happy, even though the cake wasn't near ready. Okay, now to bake it. I slid the cake tray into the oven. This'll make it fluffy and soft. Fluffy cake, my kid sang. But the cake that came out of the oven wasn't fluffy. My kid stared at it in confusion. What happened? What had happened? It was actually kind of hard. I hadn't measured anything wrong. I looked at my kid. I messed up, she said. Tears filled her eyes. The not-so-fluffy cake must have shocked her. I'm such an idiot. I can't let my precious kid be sad. Trying hard to sound natural, I spoke up. Okay, now we can get down to business. Practice time is over. Next is the real cake. I glanced at my kid. How'd I do? Did it work? Oh, it was just practice, she said, looking relieved. Good. Dodge that arrow. I looked back over the recipe. To get it right, I should do it myself. But then it wouldn't be a present for both of us. I decided to let my kid help again, and we got started. Maybe it was because the butter was cold. This time, I melted it first before adding it in. I thought back over where we might have messed up. Why had it gone stiff? I heard my kid say, I'll stir it. Aha, that was it. My kid had stirred instead of folding the batter and done it too much. I taught my kid how to fold the mixture, and into the oven it went. Please work this time. I slowly opened the oven. Yes, success! The cake was just as it should be. Behind me, my kid was dancing around. Now to frost and decorate. I made the frosting while the cake cooled. We had 2 hours left. It probably won't have chilled completely, but she'll just have to forgive me for that. Once the cake had cooled enough, I let my kid stir the frosting. Ta-da! Strawberries! I brought out the strawberries from the fridge. We can put these on top. Ooh, that's lavish, my kid said. Where the heck did they learn lavish? I thought that over while I frosted the cake. Frosting, frosting, my kid sang, twirling in circles. And that's when it happened. Losing her balance, she tottered over, her hands swinging towards the cake. And what's worse, that's when Mama came home.
I'm home. Sorry I'm late.
She asked what happened, so I told her about the gift.
A birthday cake? For me? Oh, that's today, isn't it?
She sounded surprised. What the heck? Did she forget her own birthday? Sorry about the cake. My kid looked down, guilty tears in her eyes. The smushed bits of the cake sat forlornly on the table. But my wife walked up, cut a small piece, and put it on a plate. She took a bite.
This is really good. Thanks for making it for me.
My kid said, we messed it up, but it's still okay? She laughed. It isn't messed up. It's full of love. I ruffled my wife's hair and said thanks. We worked together and fixed the cake as best we could, then cut it into pieces. We even put strawberries on top. Dig in! We sang happy birthday and ate the cake.
That was good.
I looked over at my wife. Was it me, or were there tears in her eyes? Glad you liked it. I looked over at my kid. For some reason, she started crying too. Today's supposed to be a happy day, I said. My wife smiled. They're happy tears. Ah, I looked at her and my kid. Thanks to them, I had a great life. The end.
Rune Factory for. Come on, let's go.
Pico's plot. It's hard to sleep. My body felt heavy. My arms and legs were stiff. And it felt like something was wrapped around me, squeezing tightly. What is this? I slowly opened my eyes. Before me was a giant Pico. I closed them, trying to pretend I hadn't seen anything. I counted to 3 and opened them to see Pico flying at me this time. I quickly dodged. It wasn't a dream. The giant Pico giggled and dove for me again. Pico, why are you suddenly enormous? I dashed this way and that, frantically dodging her attempts to hug me. She was usually so much smaller. Why was she suddenly so big? I glanced at my surroundings. I was standing on a very familiar table. Aha! Pico hadn't suddenly grown. I had shrunk. Slowly, my mind grew clearer as I woke up. Dolly, can you believe it? Pico said. Dreams do come true. What are you talking about? Just look. You're so close to me, she said, drool slipping from her lips. I took a step back, preparing to run. I think about you all the time, milady. All the time. This must be my reward. Pico's eyes gleamed with desire. This is bad. Alarm bells sounded in my head. It was easy to get rid of Pico when she was small, but this would be much harder. I couldn't afford to let her catch me. It wouldn't end well. Don't worry, milady. I'll be gentle, she said, breathing heavily. I thought hard, desperate to escape. I had to do something. With little other choice, I decided to gamble. All right, Pico, you win. Do as you like. Oh my, she said. I can do anything, milady? All right then, as you command, she set to pounce. But first, could you tell me why you're suddenly so huge? Oh, come, Dolly, Pico said. I haven't grown at all. I just made you smaller. She smirked, her eyes twinkling. Got her. She said she made me small, which means that she knows how this happened. I stifled my annoyance and asked another leading question. One last thing. Will I ever return to normal? I tried to look sad, for good measure. You are such a worrier, Dolly. But you will be quite all right. The potion won't last long. Potion? When I said that, Pico flinched, realizing her mistake. Explain, please. Looking guilty, Pico began to talk. I bought a mystery item at the market, milady. A potion that shrinks any who drink a drop of it for 10 days in a row. 10 days in a row? Pico, the delicious tea you said you'd found. Ha, that's my Dolly. You are correct, milady. It was quite hard adding a drop to your tea without you noticing. But all my effort was rewarded today. Dolly! Pico flung herself at me. If it was a potion, it should wear off soon. I dodged again, and wear off it did, more quickly than I expected. With each escape, I felt myself growing bigger and bigger. Eventually, I slid off the table. Oh dear, that was much quicker than I had hoped, milady. The words had barely left her mouth when I smacked her as hard as I could. Aye! She screamed as she flew to the horizon and disappeared. Time passed. I got married and even had a child. Days of quiet happiness slowly passed until one afternoon I found a certain potion at the market. Pico, you've been well behaved lately. Let me make you some tea. Oh, milady, Pico exclaimed, sipping the tea. How generous. Well, she's a ghost, so she can't really drink it, only absorb its essence. Still, 10 days of tea later, Pico suddenly shrank to the size of a doll. Yay, a Pico doll, my child exclaimed. Pico spent a busy day as my child's new toy, being marched about the dollhouse. At first she sulked, but I guess she didn't mind the attention. By the end, she was smiling. Now we're even. I smiled at both my child and Pico. Pico smiled back. It's your turn next, milady. Look forward to it. It seems even after marriage and a child, my relationship with Pico will never really change. The end.
Rune Factory 4.
Father's Shadow. My child has stopped listening to me. It's obvious why. I am trying to make them do something I myself will not. Do as I say, not as I do. My wife came to me, her exasperation clear. In her hand was a bottle filled with milk. Milk is healthy, good for you. We want our child to drink it. But apparently they don't agree. Milk is an enemy to elude. I guess my genes won out in this case. I despise milk. My poor wife is stuck in the middle. Now then, what to say? People have likes and dislikes? Or to tell her it is but a challenge to overcome? I've long thought not liking things is fine, but when it comes to children, it's not so simple. I let my body help my family while my mind pondered what to do. Before long, our child was asleep and we had a moment to ourselves. My wife was cheerful as always, but I could tell she was tired. Unsurprising. What can I do? I thought on that while watching my beloved. Our child was old enough to be weaned and already starting solids. Perhaps I'll look into it. I asked a question, then made my way to the kitchen. On a shelf, recipe books stood waiting. I believe it was here. Yes, on the bottom right. I flipped through the book she'd suggested. There, a meal fit for a child. Perhaps I'll make it for dinner. I followed the recipe exactly. It was simple, hardly what one would call cooking. Time for din-din. Our child, now awake, sat in their chair, a bowl of milk porridge in front of them. They were not impressed. All right, time for desperate measures. I spooned some of the porridge into another bowl and sat opposite. Oh boy, look at this yummy porridge. Time to dig in. I stuffed a spoonful into my mouth. I ate bite after bite, teeth clenched into a big smile. Then my beloved stepped in, saying, "Ooh, it does look yummy." She too had a bite. Honestly, she always manages to surprise me. Our child looked at me, then their mother. I felt as though they were watching for my reaction. If I took another bite and said it was yummy, would they perhaps do the same? I thought a moment. Honesty is the best policy. Listen, I too am not fond of milk. But if it helps you to try, then I am willing to try as well. I ladled more porridge into my bowl and ate it with a smile and no few tears. I could see my child think, then come to a decision. They took up their spoon and ate a bite. Amazing. Well done. Filled with joy, I swept my child up in a hug. My beloved joined us, her own joy spilling down her cheeks. Sheesh, all that fuss over milk, I hear you think. But this is my family. Even the smallest of things will move me. For them, I will do anything. The end.